YTBC, what's the deal? So I was reading a very interesting article here on boxingscene.com. I'll leave the article in the description box and you can read it yourself. Come to your own surmise, all right? Teddy Atlas was giving his opinion on Manny Pacquiao. He goes on to say that Pacquiao is a little bit more cautious, but he's still fast, still explosive, and powerful. All right, let me read a quote really quick. He says, "To me, there's no dissipation as far as talent. I haven't seen that talent dissipate. He's still fast, still explosive, he's still powerful. He still punches well. He's still got a lot of those quick twitch fibers. That's not just in his hands, but in his feet. He's dynamic. I haven't seen any dissipation of that at all, to be honest with you." Then he just goes on to say that he believes that Pacquiao is a little bit more conservative, but he still has the same level of ability. But he just believes he's more conservative this stage in his career. Now we can argue that, but when I look at this, Teddy Atlas is a trainer, you know, and he's training Timothy Bradley to fight Pacquiao April 9th at the MGM. He knows that he cannot give his fighter any type of false security or create a type of narrative that, hey, Pacquiao is done, he's a hype job, he's this, he's that. He can't do that with his fighter. He has to make Timothy Bradley believe that this is going to be the best Manny Pacquiao we've ever seen. He has to train his fighter that way and get his fighter to have that type of mindset that he's going to face the best Manny Pacquiao. Not that Timothy Bradley wouldn't go into this fight with the right mindset, but Atlas is his trainer. He's not going to downgrade Manny Pacquiao. You know, he's going to upgrade Manny Pacquiao, not just to sell the fight, because he doesn't want to give his fighter any type of false security going into this fight. So now when I look at Manny Pacquiao and I break him down, if you ask me my opinion, if I think he's slower, I mean, after the Marquez loss, and people even before that were saying that they thought Pacquiao was slowing down. All right, and he had the loss to Bradley, and I thought that Marquez 3 fight, I had Marquez winning that fight 7 rounds to 5. You know, so, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was him slowing down. Just Marquez is an excellent fighter, man. That's a Hall of Fame fighter right there. Like, Marquez isn't some pedestrian guy that Pacquiao just struggles with. Like, this is an all-time great fighter. Timothy Bradley, I believe, is going to be another Hall of Fame fighter. So after Pacquiao gets knocked out by Marquez in their 4th fight, he goes on to fight Rios. Now, Bradley just got tons of credit for looking very well in the Rios fight. You know, he even stopped Rios, became the first guy to stop him. So he gets a lot of credit for it. When Pacquiao beat him, it's like, oh, you beat Brandon Rios, so what? You know what I mean? And then Pacquiao goes on to fight Bradley, who was undefeated, Algieri, who was undefeated, Floyd Mayweather was undefeated. Usually when any fighter gets in there with, you know, 3 straight opponents that are undefeated, in today's climate, fighters are praised heavily for that. You know, because being undefeated nowadays just, you know, like having an O just means the world to a lot of fans nowadays. So for him to go in there and do it, and he went 2-1. You know, he lost to Mayweather, but he beat Bradley and Algieri. I seen Khan get a lot of credit for beating Algieri, although I thought Algieri won that fight, but Khan got credit for beating him. You know, Spence is getting ready to fight him. It's his step-up fight. He's going to get credit for beating him. Pacquiao should get his credit from you know, being the first one to take his O away. Timothy Bradley, he took his O away. Although I thought he won the first Bradley fight, and some of you may argue that Provodnikov beat Bradley, but officially Pacquiao's the first one to take his undefeated record away. And this is after being knocked out, face first. I mean, how many guys at welterweight, whether it's Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Kell Brook, whoever you want to throw at me, how many guys you know, Danny Garcia, they can get knocked out face first? When they get up, you're going to put them in there with somebody that's on the level of a Brandon Rios. Now, some of you may say Brandon Rios is a limited fighter. He's slow. He's this. He's a tough son of a bitch, man. And for him to be your first fight after being your lights put out, I didn't like the fight as far as it being a meaningful fight at the welterweight division, but I knew what Top Rank was doing with the fight. And I even made a video like I did not like the Rios Pacquiao. I just didn't like that fight, but I knew what they were doing. They wanted to see, was this guy still, is Pacquiao, is he ruined? Did that ruin him? You know, but how many guys you know, like I said, at welterweight right now, that get knocked out face first, wake up and fight a Brandon Rios, a Timothy Bradley, a Algieri, and a Mayweather? in their next, 4 fights after being, embarrassed as far as being knocked out cold. And I do think Pacquiao was coming on strong in that fourth Marquez fight. He did get knocked down. That was a good fight, man. That was a pretty good fight, but it was back and forth. Pacquiao looked like he was trying to close the show on Marquez, and Marquez caught him. But, Bradley, I think what really bothers Pacquiao is when fighters are able to counter him. He just have problems. So, yes, I believe Teddy Atlas when he says that Pacquiao's a little bit more cautious, but I think it's just because he's just getting older, man. He's 37 years old. He's not getting younger. Yes, his work rate and what Pacquiao can do will look a lot better than what most welterweights can do, because to me, he is at that high of level of a fighter. Now, some of you may disagree. I know a lot of you think that Pacquiao is a hype job and all this and that. You can say what you want, man. Like, I've been watching this guy since the first fight he had with Barrera and Morales. Like, I've been watching him since then. And you couldn't have told me then that, 11, 12 years later, I would still be talking about Manny Pacquiao, because he was in wars back then. You know what I mean? So for him to still be around, for him to still be, relevant, you got to give him his kudos for that. You know what I mean? But Bradley's going to have to try to counterpunch Pacquiao, man. He's going to have to counterpunch him, or he's going to have to try to outwork him. And what I seen Bradley and Teddy Atlas working on is when Pacquiao misses, not only is Bradley going to try to make him pay, but I've seen them working on this in the gym, is Teddy Atlas is teaching him to pivot and then counter with combinations, not just counter one shot. He wants him to counter using, pivot, turn, and then counter with your own combinations. So it might be a firefight, because if Pacquiao sees that, he has, quick twitch muscles also, where he can, if you want to throw some combinations, he'll throw some combinations with you. But the secret is Bradley wants to make him miss, get him out of position, and then land his combinations. But Pacquiao is really good at getting back in position. He doesn't have to be necessarily in position to throw punches. He throws them from what? Odd angles. That's his bread and butter. But as far as him slowing down, I mean, he may look slower, but I mean, Mayweather is very hard to hit, no matter if you disagree with me or not, or you think whatever you think of Mayweather, fine, but he is hard to hit. Yes, he wasn't, I know Maidana got to him, and I know there are some fights, but majority of the time, Floyd Mayweather is hard to hit. And Pacquiao, I mean, how many fights has Pacquiao had? 65 fights, man. So I wouldn't say he's more, being conservative because he got knocked out with Marquez. And if he is a little bit more hesitant, isn't that a good thing to learn? To learn from a mistake, to learn from being knocked out cold. I wouldn't take that as a bad thing if he is being more conservative. But I mean, you can possibly say that. We can probably argue that. Only Manny Pacquiao really knows that. But he is, pushing, going up towards 40. He is 37 years old. He's been in 65 fights, and not just an average, some normal fights. I mean, this dude's been in wars, man. Cut, knocked down, knocked out, knocked bigger guys out. He's been in there with the Tim Bradleys, Floyd Mayweathers, the Marquez. I mean, he's been in there with who's who, and Cotto, Mosley, Hatton, Clottey, Margarito. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Morales. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Now, he probably hasn't fought everybody you want to see him fight, but for the most part, he's been in there with pretty much damn near everybody, man. So I agree with Teddy Atlas to a point. I do believe he possibly is a little bit more conservative, but who wouldn't be? Like Teddy Atlas said, we are all affected by things that happen to us, so we can't pretend as if like he wasn't affected by being knocked out unconscious, but he has showed that he can come back and win big fights against high level competition. Now, he probably hasn't fought Errol Spence and Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, some of your favorite fighters, but Tim Bradley, whether he's one of your favorites or not, is one of the best welterweights of this generation, period, in my opinion. Marquez is a Hall of Famer. They'll always give each other fits. He could probably fight Marquez when they're 70, and he'll probably still be a close fight. You know what I mean? But I'm all over the place right now, man. But I'm very intrigued by this fight, Pacquiao versus Bradley. It's going to be so hard to really choose a winner. I got my money on Pacquiao because I think he's just the better fighter overall. But when they get in the ring together, man, their styles just mesh, and it's like back and forth action. It's very hard to judge, very hard to score because they answer each other. You know, Pacquiao throw a 3-4 punch combination. Here come Bradley answering them back. Bradley is as tough as a fighter as you will want to see in the ring. So is Pacquiao. Even though he's been knocked out, I mean, shit, when he got knocked out, he was trying to knock Marquez out when he got knocked out. And they're just both tough, man. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Bradley won this fight. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if Pacquiao wins this fight either. Just chopping it up, man, about what Teddy Atlas had to say about Pacquiao. But I think he's right. He probably is a little bit more conservative. But at the same time, he does have some of his explosiveness, his punching power, everything is still intact. It's just that it hasn't been on display because he probably is slowing down because of his age and the amount of fights and wars. And he's been in there with elite level opposition. You know, just my opinion on this. YTBC, I'm out.